Are you thinking about starting a firewood business? Or do you run a firewood business and things have come to a bit of a standstill, you're not progressing forward as much as you want? In this video, I'm going to tell you the things I wish I knew before starting a firewood business and the things I have learnt whilst running a firewood business. Let's get started. Welcome back everybody to the Log Burners Lounge. I'm Joe, as most of you already know now, but that's for the new viewers. I'm getting a lot of feedback back from the videos and I'm glad the videos are helping. So in this video, as I said at the beginning in the intro, this is going to be more aimed at the financial aspect and sort of progressing your firewood business forward, and a few tips, some bits I wish I knew first. I'm not going to go too in-depth into machinery or anything that I've told you in God knows how many videos. But there's going to be some really good bits in there that I've learned along my journey, let's just say, of being in business in the firewood industry. So one of the new things, I say new, but one of the things I didn't 100% know, or I didn't think would be as bad, when you're starting out, even when you're running your firewood business, the first most important top 3 things you can think of are cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. Okay? Cash flow is the key to running a firewood business. Now you've got to bear in mind, most traditional firewood businesses make money anywhere between, let's say, October, November time, maybe sometimes a bit earlier if you have the pre-sales, all the way through to about February, maybe the start of March. That is a very small period of the year that you have to make 90% of your money, let's just say, okay? So the key is having cash flow there. You need cash flow to pay your yard rents. You need cash flow to possibly pay your staff. You need to pay for your fuel, your vehicle, your processing time, getting everything ready for the end of the year, the timber. There's so much that goes into a firewood business, and there are a lot of expenses depending on what scale you're on, okay? So make sure you burn that into your head, cash flow. When it comes to cash flow, there are many ways you can maintain it, okay? So you've got, do you buy your timber all at once at the start of the year? My answer to that would be no. I wouldn't recommend trying to buy a year's supply of timber in one go. So I just finished editing the mobile processing video, then started editing this video, so I've got a backlog of videos I'm going to try and get up. Still got Millie with me right now. She's my right hand dog. She used to come everywhere with me. She still does now and again, but she's come absolutely everywhere with me. We've got 2 other dogs, Maddie and Maya. So basically, I want to explain this a bit better. So, if for example you were going to process 2,000 bags a year, okay, and you knew how many bags you got off an Arctic load, let's say minimum you'll get out of 80 by 80 bags is 80 bags on an Arctic minimum. I would expect to see. You'll get that 2,000 and divide it by the 80 bags you'll get per Arctic lorry load, right? And that should leave you with 25 Arctics. It will tell you exactly how many Arctics you need to order to get that amount of bags. So if you go from that 25 and you said, look, ideally I like to process 5 months out of the year, whether that's start to middle of the year, whatever, or after the season, 5 months on, just to give it time to season, and you rotate your stock. If you divide that by 5, you will need to order 5 lorry loads a month, okay? So 25 divided by 5 is 5. So from that point there, you can then decide whether you're going to order 5 lorry loads a month, that's minimum what you need to order, or you can say, look, this month I won't order 5, but there's a good deal coming up, I'm going to order 10. And then go back to the 5s after that. Or you can say, right, every other month I'm going to order 10 Arctics in a month. There's many ways of doing it, but it's all about knowing what your timber is and what's out there. So one thing I like to do is I like to ring around, see who's got what projects coming up. And for example, if I ring one of my suppliers, he says, look, I've got a big project coming up in, I don't know, June. There's going to be some timber there. Okay, what sort of rates are we looking at? Ballpark. He will tell me the ballpark figure, plus or minus. He's usually crack on. And then I'd know, right, I might hold out to that, I might order 15 then and not order for 3 months, 5 for each month. Now we don't necessarily do 2,000, we probably do a bit more than that at times, maybe a bit less, I don't know, it depends what wholesale comes in. But I just wanted to explain it a bit better, just give you a bit more insight to how we do things and what we do. Forward planning is key. If you can forward plan, then and work out and know your numbers, you know where you need to be at. And let's say you haven't been able to order because of cash flow for so long, let's say 3 of those 5 months, then boom, you know how many you need to order in those 2 months. Some people don't even do it by 5 months, they'll divide it by 12 months because they're working in year in hand. So you look at it, 25 divided by 12, you know, but divided by 10 is 2.5 arctics a month. So you can kind of get a gist of where you need to be at and work out how rushed you are. Always good to keep counting your stock in your yard as well. That's something that a lot of us probably don't do enough. Like if you've got your cages and bags easy on display and you just write down on a piece of paper what you've got in there, and each time you add something to it or take something out, you know, you keep a track on. I keep it on a spreadsheet, and then if I need to just double check my spreadsheet, I'll have a recount up. Come here. Then yeah, nosy, ain't you? So you've got the gist. I hope that helped, and let's get back to the video. Now if I do it month by month by month and process month by month by month, then essentially you're not having a big outlay at the beginning. You're giving yourself time throughout the year to keep making money to invest into the timber, and you're not leaving yourself short for things like emergencies if something was to break down, or you have wages to pay, your yard rents, finances if you have any finances on equipment. That method there is how I, let's say, started to develop my business. The more cash flow you got there, the more investment you will have at the end of it. It takes money to make money, essentially. You have to pay your staff, you have to pay yourself. A lot of firewood businesses say, oh, the profit at the end of my year is my wages. I take my wages out the profit. That is a big no-no. You're in this game to not only pay yourself, but to make profit, okay? And we'll get more onto that in a minute. So let's just say, back to what I was talking about, you're gonna say, I need 3 arctics a month. You could decide whether you buy 3 arctics a month, or you might say, well, I might buy 2 arctics next month, miss a month, 2 arctics the month after, and you just sort of basically spread out your expenditure. That is a really good tip. Now, in theory, you want to be kind of working a bit more than, let's say, that year in hand. You want to try and have a bit more stock there, whether it's greener stock towards the end of the season, but you always want to kind of build on your stock anyway. So that's more aimed to someone trying to develop, restructure the business, trying to have that extra cash flow, maybe to invest in a better machine. Everything can be done, but it's all about forward planning. Always forecast your cash flow. So during my year, let's say if I spend X on arctics every month, or if there's a good deal on, I might spend a bit more, but I'll never spend all my timber money in one go. It doesn't matter, unless it's stupidly cheap, like I've just won the lottery, it's not something I'll ever do. So what that does is it gives me time in the year to bring my money back in, whether that's through mobile processing, whether that's through wholesale sales. You know, you make profit on top of that, and you can kind of keep developing and maybe even buy more than you need. Now, the next thing that I'd say is profit. That is number 4 on the list. Profit is very misunderstood in this industry, and I see a lot of people making mistakes, and I see a lot of people reaching out to me saying they don't know why their business isn't growing. And I can tell you the exact reason in 99% of the cases. You will do a year and your turnover is 20 grand, 30 grand, 40 grand, 50 grand, maybe 100 grand, maybe 200 grand, right? And then let's say your profit is 40 grand at the end of the year. People are saying that is their wages. They pay themselves that or whatever, okay? That is not how you should do it. How is your business ever going to grow? So what you need to do is be pricing your firewood, and that's down to you. You have to work out your costs and expenditures and what goes into producing a bag of firewood or a crate or however you sell it, or a loose load. However, whatever you do is, you know, you've got to work out yourself. But you should be having your turnover, and in that turnover you've got to account for all your expenses, etc. Your wages are an expense. It's not your profit. you always want to be aiming for a 20% profit margin at the minimum. Now, as you grow up through the scale of your business, so as you get to a larger business, it's going to be harder to increase that profit margin. I'm talking large companies, probably companies that don't even watch this channel, but it's going to become harder because you've already got a good market, you've already got a good product. It's hard to improve on that or sell more without the custom. But let's just say you're a small to medium business, maybe going slightly into the larger scale. You need a 20% profit margin. Now, if you have a 20% profit margin, what that allows you to do is, once you've paid your wages out of all your expenses and all your, you know, timber, your vehicles, your finances, your rents, your mortgage, or whatever, that 20% profit is left there in the account at the end of the season or at the end of the year, on top of all the money you've got back in from your sales. Okay, that 20% minimum is what you use to grow. Whether that's investing in more timber, investing in more marketing, investing in new machinery, whatever, that 20% is what you use to grow. Without those profits, without that any margin, even if you say I've only got 5% for now, your business can only grow 5% year on year, because you need to be able to buy that timber. You need to be able to invest in new machinery if that's something you need to do, invest in a new delivery vehicle, maybe invest in another staff member. Because what you've got to bear in mind is, just because you've got that machinery there and then, just because that staff member has just started, just because, you know, you got a new delivery vehicle, doesn't mean it's going to pay itself off there and then. It's not going to make its money back. It's not going to start generating you money until you get a bit further down the line. And then you go, actually, this has made a big difference. I'm being more efficient and it's making me more money. So remember your profits. Your profits are a big thing. Moving forward, I'd say you've got to then look at your marketing. Marketing, as I said in the previous videos, especially the one regarding off the top of my head, I think I said it in the video about, you know, when sales slow down. There we go, I got there in the end. Marketing is all about how you market. So you can have paid for marketing, you can have natural growth marketing. Your wages still have to come out of that. You've spent time on that. Whether you actually bill that is up to you. Obviously, I don't count a lot of the hours I do and, you know, pay myself per hour, but I still have a wage out of the business at the end of the day. So what I say is, whether you're paying someone or paying for sponsored ads or paying for flyers, paying for sign writing on your van, it's all about marketing. You need to get in front of those customers. Now, one thing that you've got to remember is, using social media isn't just the way forward. It's a very, very powerful, very, very good tool, and there's so much involved in marketing. But what you've got to bear in mind is, you're in a very crowded space. You've got to make your stuff stand out. You've got to do everything you can to be visible to everyone. So for me, I don't only just do social media marketing, I go old school, leaflets. Leaflets and word of mouth is great. So as it comes to, I don't know, probably about end of summer, I have made agreements, I may have said this before, with a number of pubs that have log fires in there, log burners, outdoor fire pits, and I've also made some deals with a few of the, you know, camping grounds and stuff like that. At the end of the year, because obviously they need to keep their, you know, pubs warm and stuff like that, they need firewood. And a lot of people try and sell to those pubs. There's no point in fighting over a pub. So do you know what I do? I get the cheapest marketing I'll ever get. I say, look, I'll give you my firewood at cost. At first, I did it for free. I said, I'll give you free firewood. What I want is a A4 flyer on your door as you walk in, an A4 flyer somewhere near your log burner, and one near your bar, okay? And essentially what happens there is your product will sell itself. So let's just say your cost per bag is £45, £40, £30, depending on what wood you give them. Maybe for some cases it might be £50 a bag. Maybe you buy it in for 60, I don't know. But let's say for £60, you get, you know, some advertising. That advertising isn't what's selling your product. It's the actual fire itself, okay? Imagine this, I'll paint you a lovely picture. You've gone out with your family, or sort of family's gone out. They're sat by the pub fire, or it's nice and warm in there. They have log burners themselves. They might have an open fire themselves. And they go, blimey, that wood burns great. It looks quite nice as well. Wonder where they got it from. Look above. Wow, that must be where they get it from, there's a flyer there. Or they'll go to the bar, or they might ask a member of staff. And what's happening is, you think how much traffic goes through a pub's doors with all your Christmas dues, pub meals, whatever, all through the end of the year, how much traffic goes through those doors. You can sort of do the same in the summer as well, but it's also a good money earner for the quieter months, if you could sell to those pubs for the outdoor fires and whatnot. But my point is, your product is selling itself. It is a cheap way of advertising, but you're also getting a lot of people, businesses don't see this a lot. Imagine if you had a load of customers in one area. You're kind of capitalising an area. It makes it worth your while to be that go-to person for that area, and loads of people in that area recommended you on spotted sites on social media. Let them do the work for you, okay? Let the pub do the work for you. The cost of an A4 fly and the cost of a bit of, I don't know, a bit of timber, even if you had to give them 3 bags in a year, let's say they cost you £40 a bag for £120, okay? You think how many days marketing you'll have to do all over social media, trying to push everything out, trying to get those customers. Your cost per customer could be so small, okay? And they're usually repeat customers. So that is something I'd always recommend doing. Look at your marketing strategy. There's a free bit there. I'll even add a photo of what we do right here. And as you can see, they are very, very clear and clean images, sort of like a pizza takeaway. So people can see we offer bundles, we offer delivery, what sort of prices we start from, and my numbers on there, well, the office numbers on there. So that is exactly where you want to be. You've also got to make sure you're catering to the older generation and the younger generation. The older generation know what they want 9 out of 10, and they just want it clear and a good product. So your marketing has to be clear for that, okay? But then on a younger generation, what they will require possibly is more information. Now in the recent years, I believe fires have become more of a novelty, okay? People are using them to heat the house, yes, but they love the look of a fire. Who wouldn't? I do. But in that sense, you've got to realise that they haven't got generations of knowledge. They weren't brought up maybe as myself, or maybe some of the viewers are, where they've been brought up making fires. It could be something completely new to them, and they've just brought a log burner. So you need to be putting out there and becoming the expert and saying, this is the sort of product you need. Having this problem, try this product. And that's the sort of marketing route you want to go down if you've been on social media. Now, one big tip that took me a while to learn, and I wish I knew from the beginning, but I've done extensive research. I've worked with marketing friends of mine who are in that industry, and I've paid them to do bits and teach me at the same time, because I've always believed that if you're going to do something, learn how to do it at the same time. You've got to look at diversification, okay? Your marketing can be saying you're selling something. That's a good way of marketing. But also, you've also got to look at education. When it comes to education, Google, Instagram, I think Facebook have an algorithm, okay? Even YouTube. They want to basically get the viewer, get the person searching for results, the exact result they need. So what you've got to find is that if they're searching with a problem or searching for firewood, the algorithm will favour the experts over the people just marketing. So my rule of thumb is, I do more marketing for the channel and the Log Burners Lounge than I do my own business. I'm going to be honest with you, I become complacent, and that's one thing I've got to stop doing. That's one of my goals this year, to make sure I put as much effort as I do into the channel, into the group, as I do into my own business. Now, if you take a look at the Log Burner chat group, right, there's 240,000 members in there, okay? We have grew that to 240,000 members, right? I'm going to let you use that, okay? So what I want you to do, in your spare time, I want you to go on, have a quick flick through, type in firewood, type in logs, okay, in the search bar. And what you'll find is a load of people asking questions about logs, firewood. You'll see some bits, probably people trying to sell or where to get free firewood from or whatever. But what you'll see is a lot of people's issues and questions, okay? What you then need to do is take out the most common issues or the most common questions, and then do a Facebook post on it. For example, my logs don't burn very well. Any advice? Do a post. Are your logs not burning very well? This is the reason. This is what we do to prevent that. Moisture content, sizes, etc. here's a link to our website or our Facebook page where you can place your order, or here's some contact details to place your order. Things like that, the algorithms favour, okay? Become the expert. Don't let Doris in a blog or on the Log Burners chat, give out the expert advice. You as an industry member are the expert. Another tip I'll give you, which is something I developed in more recent years rather than at the start, but I wish I'd done it at the start, is separate your money into pots, okay? So what I always tend to do, any money I get, I'll put the expense of creating that bag of wood into a pot and the profit from the bag of wood into another pot. I'll then go to the first pot where all the expenses are and take out anything that is not timber. So I'll go, right, yard rent, wages, whatever, okay? So then that way you've got 3 pots in front of you. For example, this is hypothetical. I know we have like multiple sections in our business account, but obviously you can set it up any way you want. I know Monzo offer free devices. I'm not with Monzo, but you can work it out. Basically start setting yourself up some separate pots. On the pot on your left, or however you set it up, you should have all your fixed expenses, maybe your finances, equipment, anything like that. So you'll have that to one side. And then in the second pot, you'll have your money for timber. And in your final pot, you will have your profit. If you split all your money 9 times out of 10, unless something goes horribly wrong, you will always know how much you can spend at each point. And then if you wanted to take that a step further, you can also add a pot with your profit, take a little bit out of your profits and put that for an emergency fund. Splitting up your money and knowing where you're at is a key thing, which brings me on to my final, well, it might not be the final, we'll see where this goes. I can go on forever with this. There is so many things that I've learned, and I will keep adding to this. I'll keep doing videos, maybe shorter, like little short ones, and then everything I learn, hopefully you get something from it. You might be able to teach me something. I always seek advice. There's networks of us that we all work between us. So join our Saturday live chats. There's plenty of Firewood producing that. I've learned a few things as I've gone around interviewing people, things I've never thought of, and hopefully I can pass on information to you. And my experiences you can maybe learn from that as well. But one of the things that is so overlooked in a business is your numbers. You need to know what you're selling. You need to know what you're making. You need to know what your expenses are all year round, okay? So I have a little spreadsheet set up and I link that with my website. I also set up a cash sales invoice system. So I still plug those cash sales into the system, so then I can always check what I've got online, what I've got cash sales from people who come to the yard, and obviously then we have to put it into the bank. We always can keep track of everything. But my point is, you need to know your numbers. So one way I do it, I do my year January to December, okay? And your first year you won't have many numbers. It's kind of a learning start. You want to try and do everything as cheap as possible. You don't want to go out on big equipment. You want to try and start with the most basic equipment possible, which I will touch base on that in a minute. But what you need to bear in mind is that you need to track those numbers constantly. So have a look at what you've done this year, okay? Have a look at what you're doing so far this year. Every month or every few months, have a look. Are you beating last year already? Are you behind? What did last year look like compared to this year? So for example, in January usually, or the very last day of December, I will look at all my sales that I've got over the season and over the year. I will know exactly how many bags I've sold, how much profit we've made, how much mobile process, how many days we've done, how much wholesale we've done, even down to what products we've sold and what products are performing and what's not performing, okay? Your best performing products, you don't have to do anything with. Your second best performing products, you don't have to do anything with. Your worst performing products, you need to look into and find out what can you do to sell more of those. Can you bump that up by 10%, 20%? And then once you've worked that one out, go up the ranks. Can you bump each one up by 20%? Always focus on your lowest product first. Always trying to do it better. Is it through marketing? Is it through price? Is it through, what you can get it for? If you can increase your profits by buying it in cheaper, do that. So you always need to know your numbers. You need to always know what profit margins you're working within, what your expenses are. So my main recommendation to you is track your numbers. And if you need a spreadsheet or you want me to mop something up, let me know. Now, I'm going to make this very, very clear. I am nowhere near a millionaire. I do not have the most perfect firewood business out there. Every day is a learning day for me, and I'm very humble in that sense. But I'm passing on information that I've learned, and if you can take something from it and implement something into your business, then that makes me happy, because I like to see people succeed and improve. So if you've got any further tips, let me know. I might learn something from you. But getting on to the final section of this sort of video, a lot of people say to me, how do you start a firewood business? Okay, and it's very simple really. Be cost efficient. That's it. Do not go too far. In your first year, you won't have a huge amount of sales. You do not need massive amounts of machinery. You do not need massive amounts of loans, credit card bills to buy firewood. You don't need to do any of that. You can actually start from the ground up. You can start with a chainsaw, an axe and a pickup truck. Try and get our waste tipped to your, from tree surgeons, tipped to your yard for free, okay? Or you can buy it in cheap. Our waste is always cheaper than cordwood. 9 out of 10 you can, well, in fact, I've never really actually paid for it, and if I have, it's been such a minimal amount. So price per ton really. And what you find is a lot of that hard waste, if there's a good quantity, has been sat in their yard for a while, and it's probably already started drying out, and then usually it's ringed up or semi-ringed up, so it's not as hard handling. So you can start there. Now as you develop, then again, use your profits to invest into your business. Okay, people who go all out first don't usually last very long. You don't need a fancy kiln to start. You don't need the best processor on the market to start. You don't need anything other than an axe and a chainsaw. Once you've done an axe and a chainsaw, you've earned the right to buy a splitter. Once you've run that splitter and you've done really well with it, you've then earned your way to get a small processor, or maybe a medium one. And once you've done so good with that, you might want another one of the same, or you might have earned the right to go and get a bigger one. Okay, you don't have any rights. You haven't done the hours, you haven't done the work to go out and buy 10 Arctic lorry loads tomorrow. You need to earn that, you need to build that, okay? And I don't mean that in a sense of you can't do this, you can't do that. It's just my mentality. For me, you have to earn the way up. Same as if you have a labourer working for you. Let's say you're an electrician, let's say you're a gardener, let's say you're a tree surgeon. You're not going to send someone who's dead green, who doesn't know much about the industry or has that much experience, operate £100,000 worth of kit or £50,000 worth of kit. You know, you wouldn't trust a poor person with £1 million with no experience. That's what I'm saying. You've got to get used to having that money, having that cash flow. You know, one year, and I know this really well, someone came to me, and I won't mention no names, and he said, look, I put myself in a bit of a predicament. I've just spent all this on kit. I cannot afford firewood. Okay, what would you recommend? And his finances were quite high. He had a few issues, and I sat down, took a look at him, tried to help him out a bit, and it was clear. He got cash, bank transfers, online sales so good in his first year in December, okay, and November and October and January. He was getting 2, 3, 4 grand a week. He did absolutely brilliant, better than I did in my first year, but he also had all this machinery. But because he was getting that cash in, okay, and when I say cash, I don't literally always mean cash, it's just something I say. When he was getting that money in, what you didn't realise is that's not his money now. No, that's not the money now. That is the money you use to run your business and develop your business. Just because you got 10 grand one week, that 10 grand isn't yours. That's the business's, okay? Unless you're going to pack up the next day, you've got to reinvest that. You've got to put that back in. You need that to keep your business running. So don't get like confused by big wads of cash dangling in front of your face. No, you can't afford, you know, a massive site office or a giant machine because you've done one good year. You need to keep repeating it. If you keep repeating it, things are going well, then you start investing. You do not take too much of a chance from the beginning. That's what I'll always say. And another thing to remember is the market has diluted, okay? The timber prices are up and down. You've got so many people supplying firewood nowadays. No matter where you are, I believe like in America, there's quite a few people who do it, quite a few homeowners that do it. And mainly in the UK, you know, more and more firewood businesses are popping up. We have a term we call Facebook marketplace sellers. They've got no yards, they do it from the back garden, and they sell dirt cheap prices you can never compete with, okay? Now, what you've got to bear in mind is, it's all about the long game. Just play the long game. Yeah, they might be cheaper than you, they might get a few quick sales, but you will outlast them if you play the long game. Your business will do a lot better than theirs does. You'll be able to grow your business and invest that money and invest that time, and they will probably disappear, and you probably see 10 more like them through your journey. You know, I can see God knows how many people who, you know, have dipped in and out the industry, whether it's tree surgeons, landscapers, builders, you name it. So always bear in mind that whilst you're playing the long game, you are being very steady, you are growing, you're not rushing into anything, and it's always good to get second and third opinions. And if you can, and this is something that I pride myself on, network between other firewood producers, network with me. Reach out to us, reach out to me, reach out to Archie, you know, message Log Burners Lounge. When you message us, we'll try and reply to you. Come on our Saturday night lives and talk to people. If you've got any questions, we're more than happy to help you. We just want to see everyone succeed. If everyone succeeds, then we all get a piece of the pie, you know, and it becomes a better environment for us all, and we all should set the standards for the industry. Now, I can keep rambling on and going on, and I hope this video has been helpful for you. I'm going to do another video on a few other bits, but they're just the main sort of things that I wish I knew and things I've learned throughout my time in the industry. You know, make friends with tree surgeons, make friends with other firewood suppliers, manage your cash flow, make sure you're making a profit, and the profit's not your wages, and take things steady, and everything should be good. So that's it for this video, and I hope to join you on our Saturday night lives. If you haven't been there, join. I know a lot of people get a bit nervous about messaging in the comments. It's a friendly area. We make sure that, you know, there's no abuse or anything. There never has been. We're not like that. So just if you got something you think is silly, drop a comment in there, chat with us all. We're all there, we're all having a laugh. And if you still don't feel confident, like a lot of people do, they drop me a message after the live, and I try and get back to them as and when I can. And I want to just say again, thank you for watching this video. Really do appreciate you all being here. We really appreciate the support. We have some really good content coming. We've done tons of filming. The editing's taking a bit longer because we're trying to, you know, improve what we're doing on the, let's say, the bigger videos when we go out interviewing people, when we're going out looking at machines and stuff like that. So we're going to try and keep things patched in with these sort of videos that people are requesting about running the business, about struggles, about pros and cons and stuff like that. So anytime I think of something, I will record it, and I'll try and keep it weekly as best as I can around work. But again, I know I've said it 1,000 times, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.